Yeah, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? Frank Red, live and direct, this edition of the In the Dungeon program. Work with me, 10 minutes late. Apologize for that. Totally different experience when you show up on somebody else's show and they give you a gateway to how to get into the show, and they do all the work, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a position where you got to do everything. It's unique, definitely to your advantage over a period of time. There's no doubt about that. I'm still working the technology out. I'm sure you guys can notice that. But yeah, looking forward to talking to you guys tonight. The interesting outcome. The Boston Celtics were able to win another game, and now they are on the cusp of tying this series against the Miami Heat. Game 6 is Saturday night in Miami. And if you're the Boston Celtics, you got to have a lot of confidence after thoroughly beating the Miami Heat tonight, 110-97. And the score was actually far worse than that 13-point victory. Boston dominated from the start, and they were aligned properly. I believe that when you look at really, really good teams, there's a hierarchy. And when that is not in place, I think inconsistency can rear its ugly head. And I think when that happens, if a coach has a lot of power and a lot of, not control, but a lot of influence. I use the wrong word. It's not power. It's influence. You can shift that and you can get things reorganized and realigned again. The Boston Celtics are at their best when Jason Tatum feels like, yo, I'm that guy. And everybody else knows that he's that guy. When he doesn't necessarily feel that, and I don't know what his feelings are, but aesthetically, when I watch Boston, when he's not all go, feeling totally comfortable, they're not as good. And, you know, people start to wonder. You hear conversations, well, Jaylen Brown is better than Jason Tatum. And, I mean, if they hear it, if we hear it as an audience, the players certainly hear it. And I think sometimes that gets in the way. And when you are a new coach, I don't care at any level, when you push, you're going to get some resistance. And I think Joe Mazzulla, he's prepared. He's done a hell of a job. Not only, forget about his age. He's 34. But if he was 44, he still would have done a great job this year based on the circumstances. But I think anybody who's ever dealt with sports knows at some point in time, you as a coach, regardless of your age or your experience level, you're going to get pushback from your team. And you have to handle that properly. And when we watched Game 3, and I'll never say that a player quit or a team quit. I'll say it looked like they did. It looked like Boston was ready to pack it up and go on vacation for the year. And they got an opportunity to regroup and look themselves in the mirror collectively and get back to who they are, which is a team that was up 2-1 against last year's NBA champion Golden State Warriors. So they had it in them to go out in Game 4 and do what they did. And in Game 5, they resembled the team that we saw beating up on most NBA teams this year during the regular season. So, you know, when you're 3-2, you got to feel confident that you can win the series. Now, the Miami Heat find themselves in the same position that the Los Angeles Lakers were in against the Golden State Warriors. Game 6 is actually Game 7, right? Because had the Warriors beat the Lakers in Game 6, with all of the hysteria surrounding the Golden State Warriors, I think a lot of people would have liked their chances at the Chase Center in Game 7. We don't know, but I think that they would have put on a pretty good show. It's all hypothetical at this point. But the Miami Heat, I believe, they feel that they need to close it out on Saturday night, which is why I think Coach Spoelstra, pretty early in the fourth quarter, set his guys down, let them get a taste of defeat and rest their bodies. You know, maybe that gives Gabe Vincent some time to heal. Tyler Hero, a guy who I don't think anybody expects to play, has not been cleared for on-court contact, but he's shooting the basketball. And, by all accounts, he could be authorized to play if the doctors and their medical staff thinks that he's ready to go. So keep your eye on that as well. But Saturday night's game is going to be big. Probably a ratings bonanza because there's not a whole lot going on Saturday night. And, to think that Boston has an opportunity to do what no team has ever done, be down 0-3 and come back and win Western Conference Series. So I'm on the lookout for that. An interesting story also was Derek White tonight. Derek White was unbelievable. I think he was 4 for 5 or 5 for 6 from 3. And I go back to when Derek White was acquired by the Boston Celtics. It felt like a sweetheart deal from Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, he had a very manageable contract, 4 years, around $60 million a year. And I think most would say that Popovich and Brad Stevens have a good working relationship, So it wasn't surprising to me that when San Antonio decided that they wanted to move on from Derek, probably just to maintain financial stability, not because he's not a good player, because they developed the guy. They know how good he was. That they picked the phone up and called Boston. Boston was like, hell yeah. And it took him some time to kind of get comfortable within that organization, but you're starting to see the benefits of that right now. You're talking about a starter. This guy started for San Antonio, was an Olympian, pretty darn good player. And I think that he showed how good he was tonight for the Boston Celtics. The player that San Antonio ultimately drafted from the first-round pick they got from the Boston Celtics is Blake, young kid out of Notre Dame. Good, Blake Wesley is his name. Good player, 6'5", kind of quick, but I don't think anybody's going to confuse him with Derek White at this stage of his career. So good for them. Jaylen Brown also kind of got back to who he is. He had a pretty good game. He didn't have to go off because Boston was up by 20 for most of the game. But it was good to see him see the ball go in the basket, make some threes, be aggressive going to the basket. And again, I think it was good to see he and Jason Tatum seemingly aligned appropriately. They got good contributions from Al Horford tonight. Defensively, they were solid. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think about Boston's prospects on Saturday night. I'm sure a lot of fans believe that, Boston Celtics fans believe that they got a really good chance to win that particular game. And if you are a Miami Heat fan or just a basketball fan, what do you think they're going to do on Saturday? I looked at their zone, which is their best defense, and at some point, they kind of let the rope go a little bit. And I think that there are probably some nuances that Coach Spoelstra has that maybe he didn't want to show tonight. Because I think that's how Miami's going to win. If they beat Boston, it's because they played great defense and they made some threes. They didn't shoot the ball well tonight, particularly in the second half. So that put them at a disadvantage. But I think Saturday's game, from Miami's perspective, is really going to be about toughness. Because if you look at the personnel between these two teams, Boston is clearly better. Miami has Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, is a good all-around player, and they have a plethora of perimeter shooters. Maybe Kevin Love will have a bigger role on Saturday nights. He's kind of he's a flow player at this point in his career. You don't really know exactly what you're going to get, but when he gets on one, then he can turn the clock back a little bit. So I think they're going to need a big game from Kevin Love, but certainly their best players, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, have to play well on Saturday night to give Miami a chance to close out Boston. Kyle Lowry also, and I mentioned the two other guys, the Central California Valley's own Gabe Vincent. Hopefully he'll be able to come back because he's a difference maker. I mean, he's not like that, just a guy. No, he's a tough defender, gives everything he has, and he's a big shot maker. So they definitely need him, especially when you consider that they've been playing essentially the playoffs without Tyler Hero, who was their second leading scorer, 20-point guy a game. So, we'll certainly break this particular game down even more. I also want to give a big shout out to the inductees of this year's 2023 Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. And the names are shocking because you would have thought that they would already be in the Bay Area Hall of Fame. Gary Payton, Buster Posey, Patrick Willis, Andre Ward, and Julie Foudy. A lot of interesting stories. That Patrick Willis story to me of how he stopped playing football. If you're fixated on football, not so much. But if you are looking at the development of a man and of a person, it doesn't have to be a man, but just a person, you were so happy for him because seemingly he just made a decision that he was going to retire and move on to the next phase of his life. And how he transitioned into, the venture capitalist world or some type of business-oriented business has become more of folklore. There's a story out there, I don't know all the specifics, but one that I heard was just simply, his neighbor was a prominent person in that particular industry and offered an opportunity for him to enter that world if he wanted to. And he made a decision to do it. That generally doesn't happen for people like Patrick Willis. And as a former athlete myself, somebody who likes to dibble and dab in a lot of different worlds, to see him leave the game of football on his own terms was awesome to watch. Actually, even more important than winning a Super Bowl, because winning a Super Bowl, to me, championships in general are really about the memories. All right, yeah, you get the jewelry and people see, oh, that's a Super Bowl ring. Doesn't mean as much to me. It's really about the memories. It's about those teams, it's about those players, about those sacrifices that were made by everybody involved, who's playing on the field, on the basketball court, within the organization. That's what you remember, I believe. So I want to shout out Patrick Willis. Andre Ward, another guy who seemingly left professional boxing on his own terms. He's still young enough to box if he wanted to. He's undefeated. But the further he gets from boxing, I think everybody, including myself, just think, yo, this dude's just done, man. And what a career. It's awesome to see the grace that he handled himself with, and at the same time, just the punishing style that he employed in the ring. Nobody really wanted to get in there with that guy. Tough fighter. Julie Foudy, one of the best women's soccer players in the world when she played, a terrific broadcaster. I really like her opinion. She can talk anything, really. I've heard her do so many different things. So to see her be acknowledged for her greatness, it's also really cool. The glove, Gary Payton, Oakland's own. He's in the NBA Hall of Fame. He was in the Bay Area Hall of Fame. That's kind of funny to me. And Buster Posey. What can you say about him? One of the all-time great giants of all time. I'm sure a lot of people might even have him as the greatest San Francisco Giant baseball player of all time. So good for him. Good for all of those inductees. I had an opportunity to go to the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame banquet a long time ago, and it was one of the best days of my life, to be quite honest with you. I don't like the name drop because people get, I don't know, they get bent out of shape a little bit. But when it's real, it's real. When I got into this business, Sway, who's in the Radio Hall of Fame now, working for Sirius Satellite Radio, Sway actually gave me my start in radio. And he said, yo, Red, I got these tickets, dude. Go check this out. I just arbitrarily went to this Hall of Fame banquet. And on that particular night, I got a chance to meet the coolest person that I've ever met in sports. That's Dusty Baker. I met a lot of my heroes. And Dusty was not a hero of mine. He was somebody who I admired that I wanted to interview. And surprisingly, he gave me the opportunity to interview him. And it was a surreal experience because that interview actually turned into what I would deem to be a relationship. You know, I'm not saying we're best buddies, but I know Dusty, and I think that he would know me if he mentioned my name. So, and he gave me a great interview. It started my career in broadcasting off that allowed me to do something that I am truly passionate about. And it would not have happened, I don't think, certainly not for Sway. Sway gave me my first opportunity, and then Dusty Baker gave me one of the best demo tapes at the time that anybody could ever have. I had another prominent interview personality on that tape as well, and that led to me being hired and having a nice run in terrestrial radio. So again, it's about the memories. That's what it's about. All right. This is the In the Dungeon program. I am Frank Red. You can hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter. And oh my God, I'm trying to remove this thing if it's in your way. I see something. But yeah, hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter. That's the only thing that I use right now. I'm probably gonna venture off into some other social media services at some point, but not right now. You know, I think this is enough. We're talking about the Boston Celtics coming within one game of tying the Miami Heat after their victory tonight, 110-97. They did it in convincing fashion. The Boston Garden was rocking. Paul Pierce was there in the front row. I'm sure with a lot of other Boston dignitaries. And you could visualize everybody being down south of Miami on Saturday night, all of their hierarchy, all of their great players, great fans, to try to get the Miami Heat to the finish line, because they're going to need it, because Boston has proved that they can win on the road. You know, they've proven that in this year and in numerous years. If they're feeling good, and I think if they are aligned properly as a team, Jason Tatum at the top, Jaylen Brown, and then the others, and they got some good others. You know, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. Derek White, second team all defense this year. Al Horford, KG veteran. Williams, Robert Williams, shot blocker. Grant Williams didn't really have like a major impact tonight, but he's a good all-around player, somebody who I think people around the league definitely respect. So I don't know what to think, to be quite honest with you. Only I know is the Denver Nuggets are in the NBA Finals, and they're going to play either Miami or the Boston Celtics. I think the Boston Celtics present the sexiest matchup. I think we know that. But if Miami is in the finals, they have a shot to win, because that means they beat a damn good team in the Celtics, and they have an unconventional style. And I think the referees allow them, generally speaking, to play their style of basketball, which is buttoned up, really physical, consume the shot clock, just grind you out like meat in a grinder. That's how the Miami Heat plays basketball. Now, if Tyler Hero comes back, he likes to get it up a little bit, so that will probably increase their possession depending upon how much he plays. But this unit, this Miami Heat team, as they are currently constituted, they just grind you out, man. And the Denver Nuggets are not at their best when they're playing that style of basketball. They're at their best when they're running, when they're getting a lot of shots up. They're not being touched, because I don't think anybody on the Denver Nuggets really likes to be touched. You know, they like to have a lot of room because they're so skilled, all of them. And I think Miami would challenge them in that respect if the referees allowed them to play their style of play. With Boston, it would be more of an up and down game, and any team could win. I would still say Denver probably has better personnel slightly, but I'm not quite sure. I like the way Boston plays when they're playing their best basketball. And, no one could even envision them having an opportunity to play in the finals this year after being down 2-0 and then just getting blowed out in game 3. I think a lot of people thought that there's no way they could win 4 games. Now, they've only won 2. They got 2 to go. So I think Miami is still in pretty good shape, but if they don't win Saturday night, I think it's going to be tough for them. So looking forward to a good game. I also want to talk about the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings, because I think both teams need to kill the draft this year, because one of the things about this year's draft, you know certain players, but there's so many talented guys in this draft that you don't know about. I did kind of a deep dive today on a player that is slated to be drafted by the Warriors. Leonard Miller, 6'10" guy, played for G League Elite. And I was like, why did I know about this guy? Because he played for, for the Elite. And he wasn't on television every Saturday afternoon. That's why I didn't know about him. But I watched quite a bit today. And if you can get a player of his caliber at 19, I don't want to call it a steal because he hasn't played, but what a talented guy. So, I think the Golden State Warriors would be doing pretty good if that guy fell to 19. Leonard Miller, not really a power forward, not really a small forward, but a basketball player. Can do a lot of different things. Left-handed, by 6'9", 6'10". He can face the basket and drive. He can catch alley-oops. He's, I don't want to say it, but he's kind of a Herbert Jones type of player for the New Orleans Pelicans. Long, rangy guy who I think could probably play right away. He has the versatility in his game that good teams like to have to relieve their veteran players. So keep your eye on Leonard Miller. I'm sure a lot of other teams also are interested in his services, but he's pretty good. And with regards to the Sacramento Kings, they're slated to draft this guy, Noah Clowney, out of Alabama, 6'9", 6'10". Every time I watch him, he's shooting a 3. And don't they have that? They have guys who can shoot the 3 now. They need tough interior players. That's what they need. So I would look at Bediako, his teammate from Alabama, the 7-footer, shot blocker, rebounder, if I'm the Sacramento Kings. I would look at him as opposed to Clowney because the Kings have perimeter bigs. Keegan Murray's going to log a lot of minutes. He had a really good rookie year, and I see him next year playing at least 35, 36 minutes a game, getting more shots up. And that means that probably DeMontis is not going to have as many shots. Maybe De'Aaron Fox will give up 1 or 2 shots for Keegan Murray. I think that would balance the Kings' offense out more. And I want to have this conversation with Kings fans. To dismiss the idea that you don't want Dillon Brooks to the extent that you don't even want to interview the guy, don't even want to consider him. To me, I would say to you, do you really want to win? Do you really want to get better? Yeah, he does some crazy, strange things, but I think he's been humbled a little bit. I think that like a sit down with him will tell you a lot. It certainly doesn't mean that you should sign the guy. I'm not saying that. But don't dismiss him. Don't say that we don't want him just because of what he's done in the past, because I can't recall the guy ever getting in trouble outside of the basketball court. He's one of the best two-way forwards in the NBA. And maybe you keep Harrison Barnes and you sign a Dillon Brooks. But just to dismiss him, I'm like, well, you can't come back next year with Harrison Barnes and say that we're better. You can't do that. So, who do you want? Huey from the Lakers. He had flashes, but he leaned more offense to me. I think Dillon Brooks would be really good in Sacramento. I really do. I think he's buttoned up. I think he's going to be humbled when he starts thinking about, some of the aspirations he has for a contract, and those are not there. He's probably going to get a contract somewhere around 16, 17 million. If I'm wrong, that would be all good. I mean, I certainly want to see him get paid, but I think because of how he's conducted himself, he's not going to get the money that he would get if his reputation on the court was better. But on the court, I think he helps your ball club, Sacramento. And I want to see you get better. So if it's not Dillon Brooks, then who is it? Fans have to have, well, no, they don't have to, but fans generally have a different perspective than the people who are really making those decisions to bring people within the organization. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having a little disruption within your team. It needs to be managed. You need to have a strong coach. You got to have strong leaders on the team. But I don't mind a little bit of that because everybody else has it. That could be the difference between winning and losing. I can go back to last year when people were talking about the Warriors moving on from Draymond Green, and there's no way that, they were going to extend his contract. And then he goes out and has one of the best seasons he's had in 5 years. And Steve Kerr goes, you know what? If we don't have Draymond Green, we're not a championship team. Letting everybody know that they want him back. Now, economics will still play a role in that, but I don't see Draymond Green making less money than he made last year. This is going on the premise that he opts out of his deal because he can opt in for $27 million. He could opt out and sign a new contract. They could extend him. I think somewhere between 27, 30, 32. He's going to get paid because he is one of those guys who impacts winning. Another thing I'm starting to find out as I start to do more and more research, as horrible a year as a lot of people think that Jordan Poole had, and I'm one of those people, compared to last year, I think the market still has value for Jordan Poole. And if the Warriors want to move on from him, and based on this dynamic, I think they probably should. Not to shame him, not because it's his fault. I think for all parties involved, it would be great for him to move on to another organization where he can shine and be his best self. And from the Warriors' perspective, get something back that they can use and maybe some draft picks as well. Because I think that that's really where they built this organization. In spite of Wiseman not working out and, Kuminga kind of being up and down, I think the Warriors feel that they can draft players. Even with PBJ sitting on the bench last year, it hasn't been great. but I think that they still feel that that is a strength of their organization. So to move on from Kuminga and Jordan Poole, to me, is not out of the realm of possibility. They can get back some draft capital and some players that they think that they could use. I saw a clip online of one of Kuminga's workouts. He's working out at St. John's back in New York. And it was kind of like a lot of these internet video workouts. I don't always like what I see. I want to see a guy catching and shooting. Catching and shooting, right? Kind of like playing horse, kind of like a shooting drill. We go back to high school where you're catching and shooting. That's what I like, because those are the type of shots that you get in the game. Think about this for a second. When are you going to get the ball within a 24-second shot clock, get your feet set, do a head fake, and then dribble into a shot? It's not going to happen. If Kuminga is getting the ball in that situation, it's going to be late in the shot clock. He's not a facilitator on offense. He's going to be the third or fourth option when he's on the court, and he has to have his feet set, his hands ready, and ready to go up and shoot and put the ball in the basket. That's what I want to see, and I didn't see that. I saw some flashy stuff, kind of some AAU workouts, and those workouts are great once you get the basics down. But you got to get the basics down first. And I think that's what Kuminga has struggled with early on in his career. He certainly has not struggled with flash plays and being explosive. And I would say that he got screwed a little bit last year. You know, based off what he did in the game, you would think that he would have played more in the playoffs, and he didn't play. It's not absurd to use conjecture to think that maybe internally there were some things that maybe the coaching staff didn't like, maybe his teammates didn't like, that didn't allow him to get the minutes. I think most fans and just casual observers like myself would have thought that he would have had an opportunity to play. But next year's a new year. This is a guy who's made a lot of money. He's getting paid. Good for him. And he has everything in front of him. So I want to see him be successful with the Warriors or even moving on. But as a coach myself and as a player, I can really keenly look at a player and draw a pretty good conclusion as to how they're going to be successful in a game environment. And I didn't see that watching this workout. I want to see him shooting, catching, and shooting. Even in the post. This guy is 6'8", 6'9" with long arms. He should be very effective in the post. I've never seen Jonathan Kuminga shoot a jump hook. I'm like, why not? You can't stop him. You can't. So that's what I saw from him. This is In the Dungeon program. My name is Frank Red. If you're just listening for the first time, hit me up at Big Frank Red. Hopefully you can see the banner. And if you can't, then we'll get it the next time, because I'm still working through the technology. The one thing that I actually know how to do and I'm good at is talking in a microphone. All of the other stuff associated with running the show, I'm still building my skills and working into that. When I look at the start of my career, and even when I got rolling a little bit, and if somebody asked me, well, what would you do? What should I do if I was starting my broadcasting career? The first thing I would say to anybody, learn the back end. All right? Yeah, for people who get paid for this, I don't. And I don't have to get paid. This is fun for me. But for people who have professional jobs, who are getting a salary, you're on television, yeah, you got makeup, you got nice clothes, and everything is fine, right? Until it's not. If you don't learn the back end, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I had an opportunity to do that. I had producers that would have taught me any and everything that I wanted to learn. And I learned some things, but I did not take the time to learn as much as I should have. And that's on me. That's my fault. because that makes you whole. It really does. You can find talented people to host shows. There's actually more average people than talented people. That's true. It's hard to actually have people be engaged by what you do, be it your voice, visually, whatever the case. It's hard. It's just not an easy thing to do. But when you know the back end, when you can edit, you can do all of the, the producing, the follow through on interviews, everything associated with putting the entire show together. If you're good at that, you have an opportunity to stick around a lot longer than somebody showing up saying, "Where's my makeup person? How's my lighting? Can you turn my lighting up a little bit?" Those persons generally don't stick around as long. When you look at a guy like a Tim Legler, who I actually played against in college, great offensive player, not a very good defensive player, but he talks about shooting. That guy can shoot. Legler scored 47 points in a college game before. But the technical prowess that he brings to his analyst work at ESPN, I think is what differentiates him from his peers. And as a result, he's been working in the business for 20 years because he's very meticulous in terms of how he breaks the games down verbally. And then he can enhance that illustration by using technology. And I want to big him up for that as well. My name is Frank Red, y'all. This is the Dungeon Program. Boston Celtics beat the Miami Heat 110-97. And they're going to meet on Saturday night for Game 6. And we're all going to watch it. We've been going now for about 37 minutes. I'm going to break down and probably do another post-game show on Saturday night. All right? I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get out of here. Success in getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. Good night, everybody. I'm Frank Red. Hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter, at Big Frank Red. All right? Good night. Peace.